What's going on, people of the internet and podcast listeners around the world? Welcome to this week's episode of 2K Underground with me, your boy Kev0, and of course with me is the one and only Pastor KevyKev. Today we got a really good show for you, and we also have a special guest, but we will get into the details later. For now, let's go ahead and get it rolling. This is 2K Underground, the best in sports talk content.
It's 2K, but I ain't talking video game. But this 2K is going underground, like the New York trail. Okay, you got Kevin and Kevin. 2K, okay, I see why. The coldest ones to do it, they icy. I see why. Get it? I see why. They been sports fans since they was knee-high. They got the same name, but it's spelled different. The only difference is the E and I. No matter if your team is losing, this ain't a dream, it's a movement. It ain't on TV, but it's easy to watch, man, just YouTube. We got news, alerts, injuries, and big topics. If you thinking that first take is better, man, just stop it. From interviews and debating on who they think is the greatest. And when they arguing, you gotta pick a side. Now, which Kevin?
Again, you're listening to 2K Underground, Kev0, Pastor KevyKev. Just in case you guys want to let us know what's going on, you want to give us your takes, you can follow me on Twitter at @TheRealKev_ and then the number 0, TheRealKev0, and then you can follow Kevin at Pastor _KevyKev. You can also tweet us at 2K _Underground. So today we're here with a special guest, the owner of the NBA Quick Report Twitter page. How are you doing today?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. It's good to have you on. We're a big fan of your Twitter page as well with the alerts and all that good stuff. So it's really nice to have you on. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. We want to start free agent signings and trades. It's been a big day. Today was a signing day. Today was the day where people could actually, sign their contracts and stuff. People who sign restricted tenders, their teams have 2 days, to sign. So Kev, if you'll give us the rundown just of, just kind of some updates on the free agency, and then we'll just jump right into some conversation.
Okay, recently you had Tyreke Evans sign a 1-year, $3.3 million deal today. Yesterday you had Vince Carter signed with the Kings, adding on to their veterans. They've been a good team up there in Sacramento. The big news in Timberwolves, Jeff Teague and Taj Gibson. The best signings, I guess, as far as star potential, star power, Gordon Hayward going to the Boston Celtics for a 4-year, $128 million deal. And just not too long ago, the Pistons have renounced their rights on KCP, so now he's now an unrestricted free agent.
Interesting enough. So, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into it, Mike. I'm going to let you start. Your biggest thoughts on kind of the most recent things from all the way from Gordon Hayward to, like he just said, the most recent Caldwell Pope getting kind of let go from the Pistons. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I like what the Celtics did with bringing in Gordon Hayward, but then they switched it up, and then they traded away Avery Bradley. They're going to get rid of him for Marcus Morris. So it's kind of a logjam they got at small forward. They have, 3 or 4 guys who can really get a lot of minutes, but now they, who's going to guard Kyrie when they play the Cavs? So I think it's tough there. Let's see here. I like, obviously the CP3 trade was a little while ago, but I think both teams win in that situation. Houston gets the star power that they needed. And let's see, the Clippers get some depth, so I like that for both teams. What do you guys think about that trade?
Kev, you can go ahead.
I do, like I said, I like both teams, in my opinion, win because the Clippers didn't lose nothing. They got something back in return. I feel like there might be a career year for Lou Will. You know how he get down with scoring and he can light it up. Now he's asked to be the guy with Blake Griffin. We don't know too much about how good DeAndre Jordan really is without Chris Paul. So that'll be interesting to see. As far as Rockets goes, I guess we'll see how Chris Paul and Harden work together. I feel like they can, but it'll probably take a little longer than we expect.
Yeah, I mentioned in the last show that I do see James Harden as a playmaker, but I did not see him as a ridiculous stat number guy that he had last season. I think that he is a great off the ball person. I still see him more as a scorer that can play make as opposed to a playmaker that can score. So I do think that adding Chris Paul does nothing but make players around him better. And I like the acquisition. They got some people out of there. I'm glad they didn't do anything like try to go get Blake Griffin. Me and Kev, we talked about this last time. Wish they would have tried to get Paul Millsap. But that's neither here nor there. Speaking of Paul Millsap, I like Denver's move to get him. However, I wish they would have been able to keep Gallinari for it. So it's kind of like, gain a piece, lose a piece kind of thing.
Right.
I do like Gordon Hayward in Boston. Me personally, just from a fan standpoint, I like seeing change. So I like seeing LeBron go elsewhere. So I can see someone else be good instead of Cleveland at first. And I liked him going back. So I like Gordon Hayward choosing Boston. It just adds an interesting twist to the season coming up. In my personal opinion, I know some people wouldn't agree. And of course, Utah fans would not be happy with me saying this right now.
Of course not.
At the end of the day, like we talked about on the last show, I don't see much for him there in Utah past like the next 2 years. Boston's got a bright future, and I think he made the right decision personally.
I agree with that.
Now you mentioned, Kevin, you mentioned Mike, you mentioned how they have a log jam there, a small forward. Well, here's my opinion on that. You got your Jaylen Brown, your Jason Tatum, Crowder, and Marcus Morris, and Gordon Hayward. That's five players. Now, Boston was one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA last year. So we talked about it earlier. In my opinion, if you're not going to be a good rebounder,
I already know what he's about to say.
You might as well just get one good rebound and call it a day and just live with it. So with that being said, Crowder can play the 4, Tatum can slide to the 4, Jaylen Brown and Hayward had the option to go to the 2. So I feel like, with only Marcus Smart and IT at the point guard positions and a little bit of Terry Rozier, I feel like they could play small ball all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about how their lineup at any point could be Isaiah Thomas, Jaylen Brown, or Crowder, Hayward, Tatum, and Al Horford all at the same time. And like I said, Jaylen Brown could be replaced with Crowder, which means Hayward would be at 2, Crowder 3 or 4, Tatum 3 or 4. And they're all interchangeable. And yeah, it seems like they have a lot of small forwards and they kind of lack other positions. But who knows? They may come out there and Hayward may play shooting guard the whole season. Who knows? They may go to the point where instead of it being point guard, shooting guard, so on and so forth, it's just point guard, wing, forward, kind of like college, how it's just kind of a positionless sport. So who knows? I think it'll be very interesting, in my opinion. So like I said, this is 2K Underground. Going on to the next topic, it seems like a lot of players, especially the top tier East players, are now in the West. For example, Paul George has now left Cleveland. I mean, he didn't leave. He was traded from Indiana to Oklahoma City. That's, in my opinion, is the second best player in the Eastern Conference, is now in Oklahoma City. Paul Millsap left the Hawks. Left the Hawks. He is now in the West. I know I'm forgetting someone.
Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Butler from Chicago to Minnesota. And so now it seems like the West is, if you look at all-star teams, the West is completely dominant of the East. Do either of you guys, agree with that narrative, or do you guys think that it's a little overblown? What's y'all's real opinion on it?
I'm going to have to agree with that. I mean, the West, it might be at an all-time high with the talent level over there. I mean, you got like 5 teams that can really compete for a championship out West. And in the East, I mean, it's Cleveland and maybe Boston. I mean, the talent level just really drops off. And then the fact that you have the new rumor that Melo could be going to the Rockets. I mean, if that happens, then who's left in the East, really, talent-wise?
Well, see, yeah, it is a dominance over there. But I feel like the East isn't too bad as far as player wise. Team wise, yes, I can agree with that. But like the Raptors, you know what you're gonna get from them. They probably win 50 games and then lose like always, and then they'll do the same thing every single year until that little group breaks up. Milwaukee's on the way up, and I feel like because the East is dropping off, the Hawks shouldn't make the playoffs. The Pacers shouldn't make the playoffs, and maybe I think I'm forgetting one team, but now you got teams who are young who can actually get playoff appearance early in their career, like Sixers, if they can stay healthy. So that bodes well for up and coming players to get a chance. Or like I know he got a long way to go, but guys like D'Angelo Russell in Brooklyn, he can find his way making scoring 25 points just because the East is not as great, but now he can extend his career and become an all-star point guard or something like that. Like I said, as far as teams wise, yeah, it's not even close. I feel like the bottom half of the West could compete against Cavs better than teams in the East.
Oh, definitely.
That's a good point by both of you guys. I will say though, I think that the Western Conference is going to be by far the Western Conference in the NBA. Even though there's only two conferences, is kind of the equivalent to what the Big East used to be in college basketball, what the ACC is now. It's going to be so competitive from 1 to 5, but it's even going to be competitive from 1 to 8. There are 10, 11, 12 teams in the West that have a legitimate shot, not only to make the playoffs, but to be, the 6th seed at least. While in the East, I 100% agree. Outside of Boston, Cleveland's got no competition, in my opinion, because even though Toronto, yes, is going to win 50 games, they're a great regular season team. We saw what they just did when they played Cleveland recently. They really don't. They have nothing for LeBron. And so, yeah, outside of Boston and even Boston, we're going to talk about, how we feel about Boston's chances now. Even then, I don't consider Boston better than the top 4 teams in the West as it is. And the only team that can compete with those teams in the West, in my opinion, is Cleveland. So I do think that the West is going to be very dominant over the East. It actually might be laughable. And next year's West playoffs should be fun to watch. I will say, however, the good thing about the East is now, Kevin, you brought this up with D'Angelo Russell. Now some players who we know have potential and need to start shining, now we're going to really see what they're about. Prime example, Andre Drummond. It's about time that Andre Drummond goes from just a guy who can get a bunch of rebounds to a guy who is going to come dominate games. Andre Drummond should have a big season, big breakout season. D'Angelo Russell, again, this is his time. You got the Kings of the Kingdom in Brooklyn because, what little of a kingdom there is, as it is. So D'Angelo Russell, even in Orlando, Aaron Gordon, it's about time for him to start really coming into his own. Like the competition level, I don't want to say it's low because they're all professional athletes, but I do believe that the competition is slightly lower as far as the players. Greek Freak is about to be huge. To clarify what I was saying earlier, the teams in the West, like I said, I think that Golden State is better than Boston. Because I said 4. I think that the Rockets are better than Boston. I think the Spurs are better than Boston. And right now, I think the Timberwolves are better than Boston. And that's 4. And then honestly, it's a toss up between Oklahoma City and Boston, right there. So I think that the second best team in the East is not as good as the first 4 I said. And then Oklahoma City, give or take. I don't know what's going to happen with that Paul George Westbrook stuff, but there's no reason to think that it can't work out and can't be something special, at least for a year. That's just my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I don't know if you guys feel, Boston, I'm not giving them enough credit. If I'm giving them too much credit, whatever you guys feel, you please have the floor. That's just my opinion on the Celtics.
No, I agree with that on Boston. It's hard to tell after they sign Gordon Hayward and they get rid of Avery Bradley. It's tough to tell where they're going to be at. In the West, Russell Westbrook needed help. They got him help, so now it's time to see what they can do. Yeah. So, looking at the standings here, that 5-4 matchup in the West is going to be ridiculous in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like as I rank it right now, I have Golden State, Houston, San Antonio, and then personally I have OKC and then Minnesota. So first round matchup, we're looking at OKC and Minnesota. That's going to be insane. And then I'm still going to keep going here. 6, Denver. 7, Portland. 8. That's tough. I would put the Clippers right off the top of my head like that. But either way, I mean, the first round matchups could really. It's going to be pretty crazy in the West.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Like, all right, so yeah, for our top 5 is pretty much the same. No matter the order, we know 2 through 5 probably can flip flop, but we know number 1 is Golden State. Right. I do have questions for the bottom half of the Western Conference. Like you said, Denver at 6. I got them to 6 as well. But do they really have a point guard? Jamil Nelson and Moutier. That's not going to cut it.
Right.
Like I got Clippers at 7. Big question, like I said earlier, is DeAndre Jordan, is he really that good? Is he offensively, he leading the league in field goal percentage? Like I get it. All he do is dunk and stuff of that nature, but he was such an impact with Chris Paul on the floor. I don't know if he's gonna take a step back or a step forward. And really 8 through 10, I mean, going for the AFC is really a toss up for me. I had Grizzlies at 8/Blazers. For me, the Blazers really just have 2 players. And one of my favorite players is Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. And I don't know if I can trust Nurkic yet. He had a good run till he got injured, but I don't know how far they can go. And then as well, same thing as Grizzlies. You lose Zebo and you lose Vince Carter. Is Mike Conley and Gasol enough to get you there as well? I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. Whoever the AC is probably getting swept.
Going home.
But I mean, like guys like the Blazers, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, they really get no respect in the NBA. So I like to see him there, but I also like Marc Gasol and Mike Conley as well. So I don't know.
I as far as teams in the playoffs, we're all pretty much on the same page. I think Golden State won in the West. Anyways, Golden State won. I'm gonna go San Antonio 2 because it seems like they age, but like they always regular season they just blow through it. They're always a very great road team. I'll go Houston 3. It really wouldn't make a difference who's 2 or 3 in that situation. I would say I will give Oklahoma City 4 over Minnesota. I think Minnesota's got a better team, would win the series, but I think that for a long 82-game stretch, Oklahoma City with Paul George and Russell Westbrook are more primed to last. That I feel like, Minnesota, you might catch a quick 6-game losing streak out of nowhere, unexplainable, just because of their youth. Then at 6, I would put the Clippers at 6. I think that yes, they lost Chris Paul, but they brought in Pat Bev. That's a great defensive-minded point guard to kind of help drive that train for them on the defensive side of the ball. He gives Steph Curry fits. They get in each other's heads all the time. So you lost Chris Paul, you got Gallinari. That's a great score. If he stays healthy, he could do big things. If Blake Griffin stays healthy, he can do huge things. And like we said, the jury's out on DeAndre Jordan, but the big if is if they can stay healthy. If one of them gets hurt, either one, they're not making the playoffs. I will say that right now. So this is all based on whether they stay healthy. I would put them at 6. I don't trust Denver enough to put them quite at 6. But I will put them at 7. Because the West does kind of dwindle down at the end. I put them at 7. They had Portland maybe 8. I don't think Memphis would make. I don't think Gasol and Conley are enough, as you asked earlier, Kevin. So I do think that Memphis at 8 or Portland, I'd give the edge to Portland. But now I'm really interested to see what guys like. I'm really interested with what the Suns do, and I want to see guys like Bledsoe. I want to see him come out there, Eric Bledsoe, and have a great season. Not 18-5-5. I want to see, I want to see him take lead and take charge. I want to see Devin Booker progress. But that's another story for another time. So that's pretty much where we stand with the West ranks. It's all basically the same thing, give or take.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, for sure.
How do you guys feel about the Kings, first off, adding 4 guys like that in the draft. I mean, they got Fox, Giles, Jackson, and Mason. Then they add a couple veterans, George Hill and Zebo. Where do you think that takes them in the standings?
See, well, I had them battling. Well, I had them behind. I still think Utah's still a decent team, top to bottom, because they were so deep last year. You lost. All you did was lose your All-Star.
Oh wow, I forgot about
which
you.
I mean, I guess that's a big deal, but I still have New Orleans. Like you can't. I really can't. You can't put Kings above 2. I guess All-Star, Superstar category guys until they get. Well, even though they don't have a complete roster, and then battle between them and the Lakers. I don't know what the Lakers going to do the rest of the offseason, but what Kings did with adding George Hill and Zebo with 4 guys from great college programs, Kings are doing everything right. They finally get something right.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd say that it's going to take some time. I like the Vince Carter is Kings, right? He signed with the Kings, correct? So I like the Vince Carter acquisition. He's going to teach the young boys some things, and he's a blue blood as well from North Carolina. Shout out to my heels. I think De'Aaron Fox, that's my favorite player. I don't think he's the best in the draft, but that's my favorite player coming out of the draft. Justin Jackson, I'm always going to root for him. Again, shout out to the heels. Harry Giles, I'm not sold on him, but it's mainly injuries. And Frank Mason, just huge fan.
See, remember on Harry Giles, he was supposed to be the number 1 pick.
Number 1.
So all you're doing is based on potential, and you just hoping he close to what he was.
Yeah.
Got to steal.
But I do think down the road, when it's time for George Hill to leave, when it's time for Zebo to leave, and these kids can mature, because they are just kids. They're younger than you and I, or all 3 of us really. They are just kids, and when they get a chance to really mature in this league, they can do some damage. I think that Fox, I like his player comparison to John Wall, and he's raw and unfiltered, but I like John Wall. I think Justin Jackson, he reminds me a lot of a guy who can be that Rip Hamilton type as far as coming off screens, knocking it down. He's long, he's 6'8", high release. You're not blocking it like that. And then he plays defense. He plays that I'm there defense. I've talked about this with you, Kevin, a few times. He plays that defense where you're not going to beat him. You might get by him, but he's still going to be there. You might shoot, and he might be late, but he's still there. So no shot is open. He's not going to lock you up, but he's going to be there, and he makes it tough because, again, he's 6'8" and long. Again, like we said, Giles is all potential. I like where the Kings are headed as well. They traded Cousins, and, Vlade Divac came out and said that stuff, and, he sounded crazy, but I like what they're doing up to this point. So I will say that I do like where the Kings are going. I forgot about the Jazz. I'll probably actually put the Jazz in that 8 seed because I don't think that they just fell off completely. I did completely forget about the Jazz. My mistake. So that is that. So yeah, just a reminder, you guys listening to 2K Underground. You can follow all of us on Twitter. Follow Mike at NBA Quick Report. He's got a huge following base. Follow me at @therealKev_0 and follow Kevin at Pastor _KevyKev. As we keep it moving, we're going to go back to Gordon Hayward because honestly, that was the biggest topic in free agency this year. Gordon Hayward closed a little bit of a gap between the Cavs and the Celtics. But did he close the gap enough to where the Celtics could beat the Cavs? Did he close the gap enough to where maybe they could just give him a scare? What do you guys think about as far as how much closer, how close are the Celtics now to really having a legitimate chance to beating the Cavs in a series?
You want me to start or you, Kev?
No, you can go ahead.
Let's see. I think at best they could take them 6. If I'm being real here, I am a Cavs fan, but I mean, let's just be honest. If the Cavs are healthy, they're going to win the East. It's just a given. I think Gordon Hayward is a legitimate superstar that they needed to take the pressure off of IT. So I think they could take him 6 and scare him a little bit, but other than that, I think they still might be a piece or 2 away.
Yeah, going back to that log jam we talked about, small forwards. People really didn't know. It was like not this past season, but the year before. it was two guys that did the best job guarding LeBron James that wasn't named Kawhi Leonard, and that was Tobias Harris and Marcus Morris. So yes, we get rid of Avery Bradley guarding Kyrie, but now you got somebody who done a good job in the past. Like, I mean, of course you're not going to stop LeBron. Nobody's going to stop LeBron, but you got somebody who knows what he's going to do and how he's going to get there, and now Gordon Hayward doesn't have to like guard LeBron at all. Like, he don't have to see LeBron James at all. There shouldn't be a lineup where Crowder or Marcus Morris is not in the game guarding LeBron. I feel like, as far as coaching, well, that's what I would do if I was Brad Stevens. And so Gordon Hayward can guard the two guard or whoever's out there, because Cavs space the floor out. LeBron find the guys who you want to find. But as far as closing the gap, you said 6. I'm still at 5.
I was being modest about that too.
Like it took Avery Bradley a game-winning shot to not get swept, and he's not there no more, so that's not going to happen. The Gordon Hayward did close it up because Isaiah Thomas is 5'9". It's hard for him to. I mean, he did what he had to do. No disrespect to him, but when you're 5'9", you need somebody that's not that little that can go get a bucket. That's why I really wish they had got Jim Butler or Paul George instead, or maybe somebody like Melo who like a guaranteed bucket. But Hayward can get the job done. He can help them win one game. He'll make the game more competitive, because I feel like the Cavs blew him out almost every game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I don't have the scores in front of me, but I feel like it was never a contest until Isaiah Thomas was hurt for that one game where they won. The other game was blown out, so at least Hayward can make the game more fun to watch, should I say? But close the gap, probably not.
Yeah, he closed the gap, but there's such a huge gap that
the gap doesn't mean that doesn't mean
to do.
Right.
I'm gonna go into my point, but first I want Mike. You've mentioned a couple times. I really want to dig deeper into this conversation because I'm really liking where we're going with it. You mentioned a couple times about how I don't think that you're too fond of the move to trade Avery Bradley for Marcus Morris. So if you don't mind, I would love for you to elaborate a little bit, like what you think they should have done, because the whole point was, trying to clear up this cap space so that they can bring Hayward in and not put themselves in a terrible bind, down the road. So if Avery Bradley was not movable for you, if you were Danny Ainge, or if you were, someone in that Celtics office, and Avery Bradley is not, if that's the one person you're like, look, like I need someone to get on Kyrie, you're not going to stop him, but again, you can make it tough. If Avery Bradley's not tradable, you just drafted Brown a year ago, and you just drafted Tatum 2 years ago, who do you personally believe the Celtics probably should have shipped out?
It's hard to say. Jay Crowder's contract is one of the most valuable in the NBA right now. He still has 3 years left on his deal, and it's pretty small. I think I just saw it the other day somewhere. It's tough to move him because he's just an important role on that team. Thinking out loud, maybe Marcus Smart. I feel like he hasn't developed into the player that they really wanted him to be. I'm not really sure. I think Avery Bradley was a guy that they needed to keep, and out of nowhere got rid of him for Marcus Morris. And I just think they have too many small forwards and not enough minutes to go around.
Right.
And it's going to be hard to play small ball when they already had one of the worst rebounding teams in the whole league.
Right. That's fair. I see that. And I think of the three, of Smart, Crowder, and Bradley, I think Bradley's contract was the biggest of the three. I could be mistaken.
Yeah, it was about $8 million, $8 million, somewhere in there. I think Crowder was like 6.57, and I think Marcus Smart still in his rookie deal.
Rookie contract,
so that wouldn't have been enough.
Okay,
yeah,
so maybe they very well could have. He could have been the only option that could put them in the best situation. Who knows? So, anyways, to answer the question, I just wanted to know, I just want to pick your brain a little bit, Mike.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
To answer the question about Hayward closing the gap, what I think he did was, I don't think he closed anything immediately. I think that if they play each other in the conference finals next year, Will they get swept? No. Will they lose in 5 or 6? Possibly. But will the games be more competitive? Yes. The Cavs aren't going to come out here and in 5 games, blow them out by average 25 points. That's not going to happen again. I think that the Cavs win in. I'm reluctant to give them 6 too. I'd say 5, but it's not going to be, just a smack around 5. Especially if Boston's the 1 seed, which obviously LeBron and them have shown it doesn't matter what seed they are. They're going to the finals. And we all know this. It's all just a formality. But I would say that, maybe Cavs, if they're at home, they go up 2-0, but they win the first game by 8, win the second game, maybe pulling away by 15. And then they go to Boston, lose game 3. Boston wins game 3, but then Boston loses game 4, but then Boston pulls one in game 5, and it goes just kind of like where it looks like the series kind of teeter-totters a little bit, but Cavs would win in 6 or in 5, either one. But I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as it was this year, because this past year it was insane. It made me so mad and so sick to my stomach that I literally, even the best game I saw in the playoffs outside of some Clippers and Jazz games was game 5 of the finals. And that's it. And it irritated me. That's another story for another time, because I'm really going to get upset if I talk about it any longer. But I do think so. Immediately, no, he didn't close any gap. They're still going to lose. They're still going to lose fairly handily. However, I think in the future, not this year, but 2 years from now, 2019, 2020, when it's getting to that point where LeBron is human and he starts to slow down, where it has to be more of the load has to go to Kyrie Irving. And I hope they get somebody other than Kevin Love by that point, because he's not going to cut it either. That's when Boston not only is like, oh, we can take them to 7. No. That's when Boston's like, no, we can beat these guys. I think that Gordon Hayward sets them up for a couple years from now, as opposed to now. I think that for the future, again, getting Paul George would have been a better for now, but for him to then leave next year doesn't set you up well for the future. Jimmy Butler, maybe. Jimmy Butler is probably in the same boat as Hayward. But, I think Hayward sets them up for the future, and that's just kind of my opinion on that. So that's pretty much that. As we continue to 2K Underground, we're going on to this topic. This may be our last topic. We'll just kind of see how things go. It seems like a lot of players who are not stars, all-stars, superstars, any kind of stars, are getting a lot of money. There's a lot of money being thrown around, and it just almost seems like they're getting thrown around too much. And Kev, you have a very for lack of better terms, you're very passionate, or you really have an interest in this, and you really want to say some stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you take the floor for this one. Just whatever you want to say, and me and Mike will just kind of jump in as we need to.
Okay, so we're moving into this era of basketball where if you're not shooting threes, you're probably getting passed up on. Reasons why if Tony Allen left the Grizzlies, he probably had to retire, for example, or while Rondo is still looking for work. With that being said, it values of what the Warriors and the Rockets have done, and Spurs to an extent when shooting becomes everything. And you see these subpar players, and I want to take a look at 5 in particular. That's Joel Ingles from Utah, the big contract Otto Porter signed, Allen Crabbe, what he signed last year, JJ Redick, and Kyle Korvers. So you're looking at these numbers. Ingles got a 4-year, $52 million deal for a guy that only averaged 7 points.
That's crazy.
7. Now, you say, okay, well, he only gets 7 points a game. We just lost Hayward. So he should go up. That's sounds right. He was besides, I'm not counting Paul Gasol in this, but Ingles was a top 5 3-point shooter this year, percentage wise. Higher than Steph Curry, higher than Klay Thompson. Otto Porter just signed a 4-year, $106 million deal, which the Nets, offered him. I feel like the Wizards should match it because they're not going to compete for anything, let alone, first round, maybe exit. He's getting a 4-year, $106 million. So a guy who averages 13 points. We're talking what, $23, $24 million a year? Somewhere along that line. He's making more than Bradley Beal and John Wall. He's the third best player on the team. But he was another guy who was top 5 in three-point percentage, higher than Klay Thompson, higher than Curry. Allen Crabbe, $18 million deal per year last year. He signed with Portland. He's another top 5 three-point percentage, higher than Curry, higher than Klay Thompson. So you get where I'm going, where it feel like the shooters are making the most money. JJ Redick, 1 year, $23 million. I love JJ Redick, though, by the way. Kyle Korver, 3 years, $22 million. I thought the Cavs were broke. They just pull money out of everywhere. They just give everybody money. I wish I could shoot threes as good as them because I need to pay check as well.
That's right.
But Kyle Korver was number 1 leading in three-point percentage this year for Atlanta and half the season for Cleveland. So as you see guys like KCP on the market, he's about to get mega money wherever he goes, a 1-year deal to Lakers or whatever it is. He's about to get $20 million probably as well. For guys who can shoot threes, it feel like that's it. Like if you can shoot threes, you about to get max. So I want to know what are y'all thoughts on the shooters, how we paying the shooters, and are they that valuable? It's like something everybody trying to find the next Steph Curry, the next Clay. Is that where we should go?
Well,
I mean,
go ahead,
that's what
Mike.
the league has come to, really. I mean, it's a shooter's league right now. We live in a world where they're going to drop 120 a game. We're going to have an insane amount of three-point shots taken. I mean, records are broken every year, it seems like, with the three-point shots that are taken. I mean, it's crazy, the amount of money that they're going to shooters right now, but it makes sense based on how the league is progressing. So I can agree with that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the NFL. It's a quarterbacks league. It's also a wide receivers league. Now they can't be touched. It's really kind of just, benefits everyone but the defense. Same thing in the NBA. I think that, for guys who, grow up as those prototypical big men, a.k.a. a la Jahlil Okafor, who can't shoot, whether it be jump shots or mid-range, really have no game outside of their back-to-the-basket game. They're just losing spots in this league. And I think that you can really credit that to Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, where it doesn't matter how open you are. If you can put a three up, it has a chance of going in. So if you can shoot, you need to get paid because we want you. Why? Because we've seen how great a team can go in so little time with the 3-point shot. And also, that great team, we're not going to beat them without the 3-point shot. That's just the way it is. Which is why Oklahoma City got no chance. Even though Paul George and Westbrook are there, they're going to need some 3-point shots. So yeah, I agree with Mike. I think that that's just kind of the way the league is turning to. If you can't put up 115 consistently, you can't beat Golden State. You can't beat Houston. You can't beat San Antonio. Which is also another reason why the East is kind of inferior, because there's not a lot of shooting teams in the East like there are in the West. East reminds me more of that blue collar bang kind of thing, as opposed to the West, which is kind of finesse, throw up them shots kind of thing. So I just think that's just kind of the way the league is turning. And eventually it'll get back to that point where, there's going to be a team that not only, because the Warriors aren't just winning games and doing well, they're dominating. And which is why the league is turning this way. I think though, I think sports just kind of go in a circle, and eventually there will be, a team or two that dominate inside the post, and they're going to change the game again. And it's a cycle, but it's also a process, and you got to be patient with it. So I think that's why, because, all those players, like you say, Kevin, the consistent trend is they are all shooters, and so on and so forth. And that's just the way of it is. I think, yes, Otto Porter should not be getting paid more than John Wall or Bradley Beal, but that's just the reality of it. And when John Wall's contract comes up again, he will obviously be getting paid more. Otto Porter's contract. Also, all these contracts also came up when the salary cap boosted so much after last year. So, just the timing and like we said, the changing of the dynamic of the league, is just kind of, how it is. So before we close out, are there any things that any of you guys want to say about any of the topics that we, came up with? We didn't get to go into our, views on like why the league seems to be turning to nothing but super teams, but another conversation for another time. No big deal. But Kev or Mike, is there anything you guys want to say that, we didn't get to bring up or you didn't get to bring up, or, anything that you just we may have missed, or you didn't think about, that you just thought about, before we close out?
No, I think we pretty much said it all. I say one thing I want to say: the Warriors are the winner of free agency. They brought everybody back.
They got even better.
Yeah.
They added even more shooters. I don't know how that's even possible, but they did. Swaggy P and Caspi. Like I said, I tweeted yesterday. I was like, I would love to go see a practice of theirs just so I could watch them have a 3-point shootout. It's great. It's crazy. I mean, and the fact that they get KD for less than the max, re-sign Iggy, add 2 more high-quality shooters, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's true. Warriors win free agency, Timberwolves win free agency, and the Cavs win free agency because not doing anything put them so far ahead of the East.
Hey, they added Jeff Green. Come on,
so
big
with that
guy.
being said, that will conclude our episode for 2K Underground. My name is Kev0. We're with Pastor KevyKev. It's Mike from NBA Quick Report. Go follow us on Twitter at 2K_underground. Follow me personally at the real Kev_0 and Pastor KevyKev at Pastor_KevyKev. And finally, go follow NBA Quick Report at NBA Quick Report on Twitter. You can get all the news, latest alerts, all that good stuff. He's definitely a source for us. We appreciate you coming on, Mike. You definitely got to come again. We love your sports mind. It was really fun. Until next time, I'm Kev0. It's Pastor KevyKev. It was Mike. We're signing off. We love y'all. Peace.